What are your views on the Bible? Well, I personally find it quite interesting and I take it very seriously. However, in short, I don't think it's a very convincing religious document, and let me break it down for you as to why. As per my background, I was raised Presbyterian, I attended Southern Baptist youth groups, I also was a guest chaplain once at a prison, I also volunteered for multiple events, and I led a Bible study for 1 year in high school. The first thing that I want to say is that when it comes to religion, you have to hold it to a very high standard. The odds of a religion being false are very high. Therefore, just like in science when it comes to a hypothesis, you don't accept the hypothesis, you fail to reject it. And I think that's a new mentality that we should have regarding religion, where if you want something to be true, then you are going to be biased in evaluating it. However, if you simply cannot break through its logic and reasoning, then it is a valid religion. And unfortunately, I don't see that with the Bible. Regarding the Bible, there are two mainstream Christian beliefs that I take major issue with. The first one being biblical literalism, the idea that everything in the Bible should be taken literally. And unfortunately, things such as Methuselah living to be 1,000 years old are physically impossible given the limits of human lifespan and factors such as gravity. But also, if you understand how translation works, when the Bible was written in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek, translating that to English, you're going to change a lot of information, or information will simply be lost in the process. Even languages as similar to English as Spanish. In English, you would say, I like this thing. In Spanish, you're actually saying, this thing is pleasing to me. In English, we say things like, I broke the table. In other languages, the phrase is literally, the table broke itself. This ties into biblical inerrancy, the belief system that there are no errors or inconsistencies in the Bible, which is unfortunately untrue. There are multiple errors in the Bible. There are translation errors. There are events that are exaggerated or embellished. There's other things too, such as events that are considered entirely ahistorical, like the book of Jonah is actually considered a satire by many scholars. There's other things too, like the Exodus story is largely considered ahistorical because there's very little, if any, historical evidence for it in Egypt. If you want to learn more about this, you can watch Holy Kool-Aid on YouTube, and there's also Dan McClellan. They both go into it in much greater detail than I can, and they are great sources on this information. The second mainstream Christian belief regarding the Bible that I take issue with is biblical superiority. The idea that the Bible is divinely inspired, it is superior to all other religious texts because it has a timeless message, and it is the ultimate source for finding truth and understanding. And unfortunately, I don't find the Bible to be that unique. There are multiple religious texts that predate the Bible with similar tenets and similar messages and instructions. For instance, the Golden Rule predates Christianity and religions such as Jainism, Zoroastrianism, and Confucianism. There's also just the fact that a great deal of religions, again, they have similar belief systems as the Bible. The only reason that the Bible was able to propagate so much is a combination of timing and the Bible actually changing its message in itself. This quote attributed to Richard Halverson sums it up pretty well. In the beginning, the church was a fellowship of men and women centering on the living Christ. Then the church moved to Greece, where it became a philosophy. Then it moved to Rome, where it became an institution. Next, it moved to Europe, where it became a culture. And finally, it moved to America, where it became an enterprise. You can see this in the Old Testament. The Israelites are originally polytheistic, believing in the Most High, or El Elyon, who had a son, Yahweh, who had a wife, Asherah. You can see temples from the Israelites that are excavated, revealing a temple to Asherah and a temple to Yahweh as equals, indicating that they were husband and wife. This later changed around 600 BC with the Babylonian exile, where Israelites decided to instead be monotheistic as opposed to being polytheistic. That's probably my single greatest concern and also criticism of the Bible is that it is quite malleable. Not only has the Bible changed internally, but it is also used to justify a wide range of beliefs that contradict each other. If you were to study the Bible intently, you'll find that there are so many verses against greed, against the hoarding of wealth. Yet in America, the Bible is used to justify and rationalize capitalism all the time. The Bible has previously been used to justify colonialism, imperialism, slavery, misogyny, and lately homophobia and transphobia too. If you want to learn more about this, I recommend Behind the Bastards podcast episode, How the Rich Ate Christianity, part 1 and 2, as it gives a really great detailed breakdown of how the Christian message changed so much in the 1940s and 50s to favor the ruling class and the wealthy. Now, after reading the Bible and studying it and applying a high standard of judgment, I'm not convinced it's a religious document. I think it's rather derivative of other religious texts. I don't think it's quite unique. I think it changes quite frequently in order to accommodate various cultures around various times. I think the depiction of God changes dramatically in the Old Testament, whereas in the New Testament, he's supposed to be unchanging, omnipotent, and omniscient. I do take a lot of inspiration from the Bible. I like a lot of biblical imagery and I like a lot of Bible stories. However, the more I tried to study the Bible, the less convinced I was that it was true. I just don't find it to be quite unique, and in general, I believe that the main reason why I studied it so intently and why I followed the religion was simply because I was born into it.